Hello, good evening, Oral Gibbes, and welcome to Oral Gibbes Live. Coming to you live here from World Star Studios at Amsterdam Shopping Center, and I'm smiling because I know some people are saying to me, "What happened? What happened to Home Alone? How come you're not Home Alone anymore?" I said, "Well, you know, it's nice to take a little break and do something different." But this evening, I have with me none other than the man himself, the Honorable Mr. Cantave.
Good evening, sir. How are you doing?
You all right?
Good evening to the TV viewers.
It's good to have you in the program because you've done a lot these days. You're a recipient of the President of Parliament Award.
Yeah, that's right.
What was it? I heard you got, what, 10,000 gil or something like that?
Maybe if I was a parliamentarian. Nevertheless, I was honored to receive the award. I was nominated by Mr. Michael Granger, and I'm truly thankful that he thought of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me, how did this all come about? How come Michael Granger nominated you?
Well, I was nominated mainly because I'm a senior Teen Times writer.
Okay.
And I've been writing with Teen Times for 5 years. And because I've been really active through the community, I mean, he saw fit that I fit the requirements that they had. And I guess they made the best decision.
All right, so now you have this award. What else are you doing? Because I hear you're going to France in October too. UNESCO have a program. What's that all about?
Yes, that's right. Likewise, well, I wasn't nominated, but I was selected by Miss Marcella Henry and a board of other people to represent St. Martin at an International Youth Forum in France, which will be taking place October 26th to 28th. And that is what it's about. Basically is UNESCO has this biannual event where they invite young people from over 200 countries to come together and have a discourse and learn about a topic. And this year's topic will be Young Global Citizens for a Sustainable Planet.
So how old are you?
I'm 20 years old, just made 20 in July.
You're thinking, I said, well, I hope you, when I see a thing, I say, well, I hope you throw one a minute. For you. You're still young, man. Yeah, so, but you was in Jamaica sometime recently?
Yes, I was Jamaican.
What was that about?
In April. Also for a UNESCO event, I was selected to represent St. Martin, which I did a presentation about St. Martin's youth and culture. And that was an extremely great experience. Yeah. I mean, Jamaica is a very beautiful country.
First time in Jamaica?
Yes.
Yeah, really beautiful.
And one of the best things about it was that the event, well, the forum was for the need of the call that UNESCO made to Caribbean islands to put forth more of their national historical sites to be global heritage sites. And one of the things that struck me when I was over there was that during the forum, I was trying to figure out which place in St. Martin, which landmark, etc., could at least have some value to become to be on the World Heritage Site. And the place that came to mind was the Emilio Wilson Park. And unfortunately, no, I mean, we see that, you know, it's I don't want to say it's gone, but, you know, now a development is going to be taking place, so that whole heritage will kind of be distorted.
Yeah. I think we're one of the few places in the Caribbean, and I've traveled through the Caribbean, that we tend to don't want to do anything with the past. You know, we want to forget our ancestors and their legacy. And it's unfortunate because you go to Curacao, which was once part of Nelson Tilly's, or you go to any one of, say, Guadeloupe, Martinique, you can see what they're doing, what they're preserving. Here on this island, it's a different ball game.
I mean, it really has to do with the leadership of the island, and you know, our culture. It seems, you know, it's not really profitable for tourism, and
But that's a part of tourism when you look at it.
Yeah, it is. It is, because at the university, for one of my English classes, I wrote a 4-page paper on the negative effects of tourism in St. Martin culture. And then when I proposed it to my teacher, he was like, you know, that's a very controversial topic. Nevertheless, it's something we're considering. And one of the main things that it led to the not destruction of our culture, but our culture being watered down and not taught, and the awareness. What tourism did to our culture is the fact that it made us kind of sell ourselves and forget who we are.
Because you see, I realized that countries that develop, where tourism developed very, very slow, that didn't happen. Samoa was rapid. And you compare Samoa to, say, again, Curacao or this other island, the Martinique or Guadeloupe, you know, it's very, very slow. And in those two last islands, it's basically very little. So they have all the time to really look and preserve what they have. In Samoa now, you had a rapid development from 1958 to 1980 that literally left this island destroyed, all forts and everything else.
I think it's because there wasn't no long-term goal.
Yeah.
And long-term being, you know, thinking 2 to 3 generations ahead. If you were to develop a certain area of the island, what would be the effects of your great-grandchildren?
Right.
And that is a problem that we have on this island.
So I hope that the younger generation, like you, can start to look at trying to preserve what we have.
Well, most definitely. One of the reasons why I was also selected to go to Jamaica was the fact that, I mean, at the moment I'm writing a book about St. Martin's culture. And prior to that, since I left high school, I've been interviewing a lot of the elders on the island, trying to collect as much information as I can about St. Martin's heritage.
Now, what's your experience there interviewing those elders here in St. Martin?
I must say our elders are amongst the best, really and truly, because they are a wealth of knowledge, especially those who were civil servants. And one of the things I realized that's unfortunate is that you have a lot of people who are in power who don't think to go to our elders and find out necessary information before, you know, they act and do something, because we have people such as Jocelyn Arndell, who I believe you had on a program not too long ago. You have Daniela Jeffrey, you have Mr. Lake, for example, and many other people on St. Martin who could tell you really great stories that we as young people don't learn nothing about whatsoever. And it's a shame because, like, back in high school, I mean, I always loved history. History and politics, that's my niche. And I really had to pressure my teacher in trying to find out information about St. Martin. But what led to me being so passionate about it was Mr. Cook, who during the release of his first book, 50 Movers and Shakers, he brought me to Lloyd's show. I was in second form at that time. And when he told me about all those, you know, old politicians, what they did, and I was hooked ever since.
Yeah. It's interesting that because I know you're aware of the water plants square that was open on Saturday.
Yes.
Have you had a chance to go over there?
I had a chance. I bought a drink.
Okay. You bought a drink?
Well, I don't drink alcohol, by the way, but I mean, a drink.
Okay.
A local drink.
And you ever heard of Walter Plants? Because Plants is actually a nickname. It's Walter Williams there.
I heard of him, but unfortunately, I don't know who he was.
I had the opportunity. I have the video of him, and it was amazing because I came in here and I said to my wife, I got to find this. And earlier I showed you all those things. I said how difficult it was. And I found his just like that. It was amazing because it was done in 1992. And so I'm looking at seeing what we can do with it, because it's an amazing piece of history where he tells us about growing up in St. Martin as a young boy, going to Aruba, coming back to St. Martin. And I took some video at that time on the beach, and I was shocked because I couldn't imagine that the beach in 1992 was looking so empty. There was hardly any boats in the harbor, Great Bay. It was beautiful, white and clean. And a few years later, you know what happened to the beach. Now it's looking beautiful again.
Yeah. To be honest with you, one of the things I realized that needs to be done in St. Martin is that we need to really go out and dig up our history as much as possible. One of the things that would be beneficial is to have documentaries being made, whether it's by interviewing a lot of the elders or just gathering information and creating a documentary so that the students could know about the history of Simani. Because, like I said, I speak to a lot of elders on the island, and the stories they get are so amazing. It makes you feel sad that, you know, like your friends don't know about it, and a lot of people on the island just don't know.
But you see, you're 20 years old. My first show is in its 33rd season. That's 13 years before you were born.
Before my parents even thought of.
Right. This show is from 1989, so that's just 26 years, again before you were born. And there was a gentleman by the name of Dwight Barron and Bryson, Mr. Bryson, you know, and these two gentlemen had a show called Profiles of the Windward Islands.
Yes.
And I think we shouldn't have to say we don't have any documented history, because both Mr. Barron and Mr. Bryson did that. Unfortunately, you know, we have a tendency on this island that when things are done by locals that are watching the camera, locals, because that's the buzzword now, locals, we locals can't get money for our work. And it's unfortunate, because here you had this wealth, this whole wealth of knowledge on tape by Mr. Barron and Mr. Bryson. And nobody wanted to buy it, or they thought it was charging too much money. And I said to one person, it's worth $1 million. You can't get it again. But you know what? The reason why nobody wanted to pay them is because what? We are locals. No, I hope now this will change.
I really hope so too.
You know, because you said a while ago, you know, as a local, that you want to do X, Y, Z and document that. But your time and effort and equipment costs, there's some cost involved. But if you're local, unfortunately, local don't need any money, you know? And so that is another part of our culture that needs to change.
A lot of funds need to be pumped into everything relating to our culture, so especially the arts. And what's necessary, one of the issues I had was that in writing, I really want to establish myself as a writer first. It takes a lot of time. You need, like you said, you need equipment. Sometimes you need it's best to go with a camera if you have available, and also, you know, a tape recorder, so they are able to record these individuals, so that you know, you can collect the information. And the issue we have is that we really failed in supporting each other, because when you look at the different communities on the island, they support each other.
Yeah. I'll tell you, if this was an Indian show, I have the problem. The other Indian fellow had a TV show, he had over 40-something advertisers. You know how hard it is for we, as a local, to get advertising? The same companies that will go and invest tens and tens of millions. We have so many supermarkets on this island. And I was going through some old tapes the other day, and imagine Food Center used to advertise with it. Today now, with the Indians controlling supermarket and the Chinese, you won't get it.
No.
And, you know, and you had Afro at one time, he also support, and then it's from Song Kwong. But when it comes to basically the Indian community on this island, they've really made millions and millions. But when it comes now to doing business with locals, again, it is a problem. So it's not just our people, it's also these other groups that come into the island, and there's a kind of resentment. So, you know, I don't know what you're going to do as a young man, because, you know, the thing about it is you're now coordinating on St. Martin Speak.
Yeah, that's right.
And we're going to speak about that. But the issues that are out there, a lot of people are very uncomfortable because they can see what's going on. They're not stupid. And
but to be honest with you, let me go back to Simani history a bit. When you look back at Simani in the past, especially Phillipsburg, I mean, now Phillipsburg basically is purely controlled by Indian merchants. But long time before, it was purely locals who were in control of everything. I mean, you had local bakeries, seamstress, they used to sell utilities, etc. And one of the things that we kind of failed to do was in being more entrepreneurial, setting up more businesses that we could support each other. And wait, you can repeat your last statement?
Pardon?
Can you repeat your last statement?
The last
statement.
Well, no, I was saying because see what happened. People are not stupid; they're seeing what's going on, but it's a little bit more than that because I interviewed a lady by the name of Aunt Liz. She was a dynamic local lady. In fact, I posted her picture on my Facebook page the other day along with her son, Reynold Williams. And there were many other local people, Miss Mato and all that. They had their little shops and everything else. But you see, there's a difference in culture. And the reason why I say this, and I know we didn't come to speak about it, but because we're speaking on all these different things, is that today we as locals again, we don't see ourselves as very good business people, and that's not true. And the reason why I say this is simple this. You've had people come from India, work for 100, 150 guilders, 200 guilders a month, and today they're able to open a business and are multimillionaires. And you say, well, how they did that? Very simple. And I don't want to simplify, but still very simple. They brought in other Indians to work in their store and pay them 100 guilders. Now, a local can never pay that salary to another person or a local. So you had, it wasn't a level playing field. One person got slave wages, the other one got to pay minimum or above minimum wage. Who do you think is going to survive?
The locals can survive.
The local can't survive.
You mean
the local can't survive?
Oh, as far as advanced,
your cost to do business is more than the other guy.
That's right.
And in the end, what you see is what you see today.
Well, I have to agree with you because right after high school, I spent 3 years working for Indian merchant. I can tell you, it's not easy, especially as a young local. And one of the problems that we have, as far as jobs is concerned, something I want to touch on is the fact that, you get a job, and you maybe like the job, but the work environment is horrible. And then you're forced to do a bit extra, not a bit extra, but a lot more work, more than you're required to do. And then at the end of the month, your salary is still the same. And a lot of young locals are being mistreated on their jobs.
And that is something that I'm glad you mentioned because I was speaking to a businessman the other day, and he's saying, he wants to hire local people. He wants to hire young local people. But the problem is, if they come into work from 9 to 5, they don't want to stay after 5 o'clock. And he's saying the culture within his business is that it's required that you stay maybe a half hour after the time that you're supposed to finish work. And most local people are not going to go for that. And I mean, you know, as a young man and your friend, they know 5 o'clock come, you want to leave.
That's right.
Right? So you see there's a clash of, again, of the work ethic and the culture of certain business people. So you have the Chinese and Indian, they will hire their own people. And the local person is stuck. So that's why when you mentioned earlier about all the business that we had that was all local and today how it has changed, now they've become local because now the other day in Parliament, they said local, a group of local, and everybody went, wow. When they found out, they said, no, this is not local. You see, so there's still a clash and there's still an uneasiness in this community.
Yes, and going back to one of the statements you made, back to like the young people on the jobs, we don't, a lot of us wouldn't mind doing it, but you need to be treated fairly. You know, whether it's by a manager and so forth, and at least give us the salary that make us be able to provide a better service. But you're all right, because one of the things my parents taught me was that you don't struggle forever, you understand? And it's necessary for you to start at a bottom level, though it may be difficult, but put in your mind that you won't be there forever and you will succeed. Because I can tell you from now, I have 1 more year on this island basically, but I have less than a year working for somebody else, because at the end of the day, you know, when you're working for someone, it's like, you know, you're working to build their dreams. But one of the things that we fail to do is that, you know, in our education system, we were not really taught to be entrepreneurs, be businessmen and so forth. And it's necessary that more young people look towards being their own bosses. I mean, not everyone can be a boss, but at least.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because we need that kind of attitude among our young people, because so many people, okay, as you say, they come out from school, they go to work. No problem with that. I did it, you know, too. But you have to look at other things in life, and sometimes you want to achieve more, you want to do other things, and I think when you get your own business, it's not easy. You have to sacrifice and struggle. But I encourage any young person to definitely go after their dreams.
They just need a guidance.
Yeah.
Because what we need to learn as well is what we need to be able to do is learn to develop our talents. And that's where we're failing.
And at the same time, too, we need some support. I think
yes, most
support
definitely.
in terms of, I don't believe in giving a guy everything, but there's got to be somewhere where young entrepreneurs can go into business and get a loan where you don't have to pay these crazy interest rates because you can't compete. You can't make.
It seems like the banks don't support any young person looking to have a business. And just a few days ago, I read in a paper how in St. Kitts you have 10 young people who got the aid to launch their own business.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, we had initiatives on the island, but it needs structuring.
No, we had a development bank, and they had some programs a few years ago, and every local person complained because the requirement was so stringent that they couldn't make it. Again, you know, we're very weak on documenting, very weak on putting our plans on paper, and so that's used against us, and banks see us as high risk. So we need to have government with some policy or set aside a few million guilders or dollars or euros to develop
ideas,
our
that's
people
right.
and so forth.
And what I find would be helpful as well, you know, a lot of the local successful people should really look towards visiting schools and instilling in the minds of, you know, the youth that, you know, they could become successful.
Well, see, I'm glad you mentioned that one there because, but they don't invite, the schools don't invite local business people, and when they do, they invite the same people who are their buddy or their friends or who they, so you see, it's kind of difficult.
Yeah, well, one of the things I did when I came back from Jamaica was that I had an action plan. And one of the things I had was to visit some of the schools and do presentations, and which I did with a few youth organizations. But one of the things I really want to get into is to visit schools and help motivate young people and, you know, inspire them and provide like a lesson. Because when I was in high school, I received a nickname professor. Because as I mentioned earlier, I've always been passionate about history and politics, and so I mean, once Ralph comes to school, you know what to expect. And up to this day in the university, but because I was, you know, what we as young people need to be able to do is really understand your purpose, so that you work and invest in yourself.
That's important.
So it takes a lot of work. You might have the time. You might have the talent, but if you don't invest in it, it'll fade away.
So now you're a student at the University of St. Martin.
That's right.
And you plan on graduating the next year?
To be honest with you, I plan on transferring.
Oh, you're going to transfer? Okay.
I'm a student at university, and the reason why I decided to stay on St. Martin was because I wanted to defy the whole notion that USM is not a good institution, and also that you as a young St. Martin, you can't, you know, make something of yourself while on St. Martin. Okay. And so right now, well, I guess we're going to the whole, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so, and that's what will come to is the St. Martin Speaks, because that's the publication from the University of St. Martin that you coordinated, right?
Yes, as a writer and, you know, someone who, once again, who loves history and so forth, I realize one of the problems that we have as young people also is a lack of information. Although information is available, but being able to reach and dissect a certain portion of it. And so I started a newspaper, well, a newsletter, which will be a monthly publication, and it's titled St. Martin Speaks. And also at the university, I'm the vice president of the USM Ambassadors.
So now, will you be able to deal with the kind of issues and problem like I brought up in the beginning of the show?
I do plan on doing so, because I plan to major in communication and political science, and you know, as a journalist, you need to really, you need to be able to call a spade a spade. And I ain't afraid of any retribution or anything from anyone. So
well, you got to be careful. I tell you right now, you know, from experience, that it's an extremely unforgiving profession. You're only as good as your last show, your last paper, what have you. People forget everything you did that was good if you make just one mistake.
That's right.
But don't let that discourage you, because it's gratifying, and it makes you feel better.
It's
You're
all
helping
about
others.
telling the truth, and it's something that I love doing. I love to write, and as I mentioned before, that's one of my professions that I plan to get into. And for for the paper, the reason I came up with it also is because I realized that here on the island, a lot of people have issues, but it's like they're not getting the medium to voice their opinion. So one of the things we plan to serve as is be the voice of the community. And also, it's the paper. Well, earlier this year, I presented to Mr. Guadalupe, and he was fond of it when I presented the idea. But he also had in mind to have a media project for the university, in which also I'll be coordinating a radio show, which is also titled St. Martin Speaks, for the university.
And what station that would be on?
Pearl FM.
Pearl FM,
98.1.
okay.
So you have different students who just talk about different issues on the island.
Okay, that's good. It's good because when I went to America, even in high school in America, they had a radio station club, TV station club, newspaper, and in St. Martin, it's just okay. They have teen time, but that's about it.
Yeah, that's about it. But I think Voice of the Youth, they have a radio show. Voice of the Youth. But
that's not school. That's not a school.
Well,
program.
school, no.
It's
okay, understood.
Schools, you go to many high schools in America, and they have a radio, TV club, a newspaper. You go to any junior college or university in America, the same thing. And what that does is it helps you develop you. And unfortunately, we don't have that in St. Martin.
No, and that would be something great, because with being part of such organizations, you learn a lot about discipline and respecting time, because you have deadlines, and it's very tough when you miss a deadline, because you could put back the whole show or publication.
Exactly. I mean, I'm a product of that. When I went to America, and I was telling you earlier, even when I was at the University of Buffalo, I was news director. I was on the air on Friday nights. I used to do a late show at midnight to 1 in the morning. No one wanted to do it, so I did it. It helps. Yeah,
it will help, because at least the students also, they get to voice their opinions, and it's necessary.
So maybe someday the University of St. Martin can have their own club there. So they already have the newspaper, the radio, television. It'll be helpful.
Yeah, it'll definitely be great, because it's all about providing information to the people. One of the mottos of the paper, St. Martin Speaks, is inspire, educate, and empower. And that's our aim.
And I always tell education is all about enlightenment. That's what universities do, and it opens up the minds of young people, and they challenge society at times. They challenge elderly people that they don't like those tough questions.
That's right, because as a history buff, when you look at throughout history, you realize that it's in universities, especially when you look at revolutionaries.
Yeah,
that's when. If I don't plan on going that far.
Don't scare the people though.
I'm quite conservative.
Yeah, no, I understand what you say. What you said is true, but we need, we need more young people like you. Night before last, I had it's Emilio Calamera here, and he's a brilliant guy.
Super.
In fact, I also told you that when he was a teenager, he used to work with me here, speaking of everything, and he learned and the analog system is very difficult, and he learned that system within weeks. Something that takes people months and a year sometimes. The guy is very, very intelligent. So you see, when you get into something from very young, people can see already where you're going, because people think that, okay, television is somewhat for dummies. No, it's not. It's not like that.
No, and going back to the whole business thing too, would be nice also if that local businessmen and women take on young students, who really interested in or any other profession, and keep them as a protege. So at least if you have a group of students who decide that they want to go in to study law or nursing, etc., have them be in that environment, before you would grant them to see whether or not they really want to study that, to become that.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because my eldest daughter, when she was going to school at the Midland Peters College, the late Mr. Walter Kramers, he was the police commissioner, and then he went on to become a lawyer. Okay. He took her to the courthouse, and she was at Gibbes law firm as a teenager from the Milton Peters College. She was there, I think, for a week, and Mr. Kramers took her to the courthouse, showed her around, and everything else. And from there, she went on to study law and graduate from the University of Leiden with a law degree. So it's all possible. And I like what you're saying there because I saw it with my daughter.
Yes, and once again, I would like to thank Mr. Cook, Mr. Kenneth Cook, who was my high school teacher, because I remember when he brought me into a PG82. Like I mentioned before, he brought me during his book launch, you know, to be part of the station. And I remember being in the studio, and I fell in love with it. And I think maybe at that time is when I became completely interested in communications.
Now, he turned you into, you are a recipient of the President of Parliament Award. You are coordinator for St. Martin Speak, and now we're going to do also a radio program. UNESCO is also recognizing your talents. You're going to France in October. You do a lot of things for a young man.
Well, yes. Like I mentioned before, it's because I know my passion, and it's something that I didn't discover late. The moment I really realized that I love history so much and writing was back in high school when I watched this video titled Little Known Facts About African History. And, as a child, I always tell the stories that I remember telling my mother, let me go back to this. On Saturdays, I used to watch TBN every Saturday, and then they had these nice Christian programs, etc. But I remember one time I asked my mother, how come they have no black people on, at those times? Of course, she couldn't answer me. And it is not until that I watched that video that I realized that, hey, history is extremely important. And then that process, that love for history led to me becoming in love with St. Martin's history and going out to find information. And as a young person, although it is very difficult in seizing opportunities and making it here in St. Martin, but also you have to want to go out and you have to fight through it.
There's a lot of opportunity in St. Martin, really.
St. Martin has a lot of potential.
Yeah. I understand now you're also going to be a Toastmaster?
Yes, I recently started joining the meetings because I realized, you have to know your strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
And I realized as far as being a speaker, I'm not the greatest speaker ever. And one of the things that made me love speaking as much as writing is listening to Malcolm X.
Yeah.
And if you listen to Malcolm X, he was a brazen speaker, and I realized that it's something I need to invest in.
I tell you what, people see me here, and they don't know that I'm shy. I'm very shy.
I'm a shy guy.
But the thing is, once the lights come on, it's just a lot different. So after a while, you'll find that you can do it without any problem.
Yeah, it's about having the confidence.
Yeah. But so how many Toastmasters did you go to so far?
Well, I've only been to one.
The one, yeah?
Yeah, but I do plan on joining and becoming a full member.
So did they make you get up and speak right away?
Not as yet.
No?
But I do think I'll be able to do it because I do have things I'm interested in that I could at least be able to be on the ball with.
I remember the first time I was in this class in college, and the professor wrote down a number of topics in a basket, and then said, okay, pass it around. And you had to pick out one and start to speak about it for 7 to 8 minutes. That was difficult.
Yeah, because it's all about training your mind.
Yeah.
The issue is that you're faced with trying to find words to articulate yourself.
But it helps.
But that's something one of my teachers did in high school, actually. Not just like that, but what she did is that she made someone stand up and she gave them a topic and then let them run off it. Yeah. And then if they fail, the next student will continue off of there.
So kind of impromptu discussion, right? It's very good. So at the University of St. Martin, where you're studying, you said earlier that you wanted to show that, that you can stay here for 2 years. And I agree with you, and I admire you for that, because I think too often we spend too much money sending our students abroad. Well, we can save a lot of money in the first 2 years, and they can stay at home and do a lot. So you did that. That's great.
Yes, and you as a student, you benefit. You really and truly benefit because I'm able to work and still go to school.
Right.
So you're able to. Especially if you're in your parents' house, you have no worries, and you save until you're ready to leave. And
the thing is that your first 2 years, basically at any university, is going to be the same anyway.
Yes, so it's just about prepping you for our bigger world. Yeah. The whole thing about going away is just that you're in a different environment, and so the culture and then the language and what's available for you as a student, it's much more wider because you come from a little island. But nevertheless, it's pretty much the same.
But you know, the world has changed so much from the time when I went to college to today. It's a big, big, big difference. You know, we didn't have the internet at that time. Didn't have all these smartphones and devices. So when you was away, you was away. If you wanted to make a phone call to speak to your parents or vice versa, it cost you an average of $20 for 3 minutes.
Wow.
Today now, I can
WhatsApp call,
whatever, you know, to see the difference. So in those days, going abroad was really a challenge. And still today, our young people going abroad are having challenges.
Yes, they're having challenges. But from what I understood, you have a better success rate from students who study within the region in America.
Yeah.
Whereas from those who go to Holland, they either end up switching their studies or dropping out or returning back home.
Well, the failure rate for our young people going to the Netherlands is very, very high, and it's alarming. And the thing is that sometimes you wonder if you prepare them enough before they get there.
And what I find that's necessary is that at the end of the day, too, what we need to do, the government, is really pump money into our education system. Because I remember reading an article on how the University of Virgin Islands contributes $19 million to the economy of St. Thomas. And our university gradually would be able to do the same. And not just the university, but even even the National Institute of Arts with Cantave.
Right.
I mean, we could have a top of the class art school, and it's necessary.
Let me take a call for you. Oral Gibbes live and caller. Hello.
Hello, Mr. Gibbes.
Hello, good evening. How are you doing?
Not too bad, thanks. How is the family?
Everybody fine, thank you. Good to hear you.
Yes, yes. Happy to see you, Havana Youngster again.
That's Mr. Cantave.
Happy for them, happy for all the youngsters. I do not know him, but I'm happy for him because we have to big up the young people then, because when they go out there, they do something wrong, we bring them down. So when they do something good, we have to big them up and make them feel good.
Right.
So I'm happy for him. I do not know who he is, but I'm so happy that you have him on there tonight again.
I appreciate it. You'll hear from me, more of me
now,
soon.
all the very best to him in his endeavors, whatever he go out to do. Happy for him, and may the good Lord bless and keep him in everything he do. Eh?
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. God bless you too.
Yes.
Thanks.
Okay. Thanks for calling, eh?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Good luck. Good luck.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
That's nice, you know, that she called in and said that. And it's amazing because most of the time people say, but you got to get young people. When you get young people, everybody just don't want to say anything.
We need a support.
Yeah.
And but going back to what I just mentioned, especially when it comes to our culture, you know, you have the National Institute of Arts, you know, with Cantave, etc.
Right.
That also needs a lot of funding because, you know, as a writer, I plan to get into playwrights. And it would be really great. It also adds to your culture, your heritage. And so, you know, with dance, music, photography, etc., movies also, all of that we need.
You see, we're a culture that we don't put a lot of emphasis on the arts and so forth, and that's unfortunate, or even sports. So
yeah, sports, because at the end of the day, like, look at Jamaica. I love it over there, mainly because the island itself is a major brand. Music, sports, even in fashion and so forth.
Right.
And island like St. Martin, which boasts of having over 120 different nationalities. I mean, we are up there, don't get me wrong, but there is room for improvement.
Yeah, I think we're up there in tourism, but that's basically about it. Or if you want to have cuisine in the Caribbean, there's no island like St. Martin. But you're right with Jamaica and so forth. Just go next door to St. Kitts and you see what they do with sports.
I think we really need to pay attention to St. Kitts because gradually it seems that they will, you know, become one of the best within the region. One of the things I like about St. Kitts, about education, is that, you know, they have this working relationship with Cuba in which every year they send dozens of students to Cuba to study medicine. And that's something we're considering here for our students here in St. Martin.
We can't do it because we're not an independent country, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, it's like, it's our country, you understand? And what you need to have a sort of leadership that would not be fearful of The Hague, because at the end of the
Yeah.
day, it's like, you know, they say we're all equal, but we all know some men are more equal than others.
Right.
But we have to be able to build ourselves in a sense that
Yeah.
no matter what we do, Holland won't be able to point any fingers at us, because, you know, we're at a certain level where we can do what we can. We can exercise some sort of self-determination.
But what do you think? You think young people are sitting down and watching and saying, well, I wonder what's going on in St. Martin? What about this whole integrity issue and so forth?
It's something that a lot of young people are not interested in. I wouldn't say interested, but they're not engaged in the whole news about it. Even I am not really savvy of the entire issue, but from what I understand, going back to the young people issue, is that, you know, when they look at politics, it's like you see the same set of people who may be there from before you born. You see, I mean, you don't see nothing change. Yes, there are changes, but you don't see nothing change.
You're right.
You don't see no opportunity, and it's like, well, you have a lot of young people who are discouraged about wanting to come back to St. Martin, even staying at St. Martin, because it's like, from what I get from them, a lot of them think that like Holland going to take over St. Martin and so forth. But what I tell them is that this is our island. We need to be able to form an alliance, be unified, and you know, fight for the rights of St. Martin. And one of the things I want to mention too is that for the paper, St. Martin Speaks, one of my goals also for it is that it will cover all aspects of St. Martin. So it's not just the 16 square miles, but the entire island, because we take for granted that, you know, we share an island. I won't say we share an island. This is one island.
Right.
But we don't know a lot of what's happening on the northern side of St. Martin.
That's true. You know why I say that's true? July 1st this year was Emancipation Day. And I was in Marigot that morning and they didn't know what was going on the Dutch side. I was surprised. You know, so let's take a call here. Oral Gibbes live and caller. Hello. You're on live, caller. You want to speak? No. All right. Thank you for calling. You know, so imagine a small island like this. Imagine Emancipation Day on the 1st of July. You're in Marigot, and they say, well, we hear there's a holiday, but we don't know what's going on. That shouldn't be.
It's the effect of colonization, because it's like there's mentally in our heads, the island is literally two islands. Yes, government-wise, it is so, but we all one people. And that's why I stress on history, because when you go back to the history of St. Martin, you realize that St. Martin as a country was like one major village.
Yeah. But, you know, it's almost like that still, you know, because my parents are from both sides of the island, and many people have parents from both sides of the island. But over the last 20 years, because the island's grown so much and there's so many different people here, we tend to drift apart. But when something happens, believe me, they'll come together.
Yeah, I know that. That's for sure.
Yeah, let me take a call for you. Oral Gibbes live and caller. Hello.
Hello?
Yeah, you're on live, caller.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Gibbs.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, I just called to congratulate this young man there. He seemed pretty positive and willing to do things. But you said more or less what I wanted to say to him, because, you know, it wouldn't be nice to forget about all who did things concerning, you know, what he's been saying. You yourself been trying to get into schools. We had James Marlin. I know Mr. Cook is mine. You know, I like Mr. Cook, you know, but there's a lot of things been done. Dwight Barron, Mr. Bryson, there's a lot of things been documented with you two. And but he have to build on that too. And I don't want him to act as it's never happened and this is the first time it's going to happen. But I like him. He's pretty good. I'm not acquainted with his last name, but stay positive. Once you with Mr. Cook, I know you're going to do pretty good.
Okay, let me just make a comment. Please don't take me to be a boastful person, because I'm really not. What I mean is that as a student, you know, generally us as young people, Mr. Bryson, yourself, we don't know about the work that you've done. I mean, I know, you understand? Because Mr. Bryson, he has his work available on YouTube. You post your stuff on YouTube. There are a lot like Lasana and all the different writers, Daniela Jeffrey. They have the work available, but we're not being taught about it in school. So, you know, it's like, it seems like there's nothing being done, whereas you have it available.
Yeah.
So what needs to be done is that either the schools make it mandatory for us as students to learn about St. Martin history, to write reports. And one of the things I find would be beneficial is that the same way you have Black History Month, in November, have it St. Martin Month.
Yeah. But you know, the schools don't invite us. I was invited by the St. Martin Academy. That was because Mrs. Lawrence was the principal there at the time.
Well, that was a long time ago.
Well, you know, she was here the other night.
Yes, I know.
And they pulled out this.
Yeah,
And I gave it to her. Check the year, what year it was, so you could see that. What year is it?
1997.
Right? She was shocked, man. So, you know, and she invited me to speak at the
2 years old.
Right. How old were you then?
20. About 95.
Okay. And she was surprised when I showed it to her. That's the only time I've been invited to speak at the school. A lot of students see me today, they work and they say, wow, I grew up seeing you, you know? And then it makes me feel old, boy. You know, I couldn't realize I'm around so long, you know?
Yeah, but what I would like to say is, to anyone listening, please don't get me wrong, because I do, like...
No, you're right.
I do know, but I do go to the previous people who've done the work. Yeah. Like, I mean, I met with Dana Jeffrey on many occasions. Like I mentioned, Justin Arndon and a lot of elders. That's how I get the information, else I wouldn't know anything. So I do, you know, keep in contact with those who've done something from before.
No. What I think is that I'm glad that you're here, and I'm happy for you and what you're doing, because we need people like you to continue where many of us left off. You know? That's right. But the thing is that we have a tendency on this island that if you are too public, then people criticize you too. Don't let that stop you.
No.
Because if you do that, if you let that stop you, then you're not going to get very far.
And one of the best advice I got was that you need to have a broad back. And you have to understand, you know, the nail that sticks out the most is who the hammer would hit on the head first.
Yeah.
So I'm prepared.
Concerning youth organization, you involved in any other youth organizations, etc.?
Besides Teen Times and the USM ambassadors, no.
Yeah.
But like we was mentioned during the break, one of the things that would be helpful to St. Martin is that if we add more structure towards our youth council. Because when I went to Jamaica, one of the things that amazed me greatly was the fact that, I mean, their youth council even has a constitution and laws.
Yeah.
And in a sense, and how that would benefit St. Martin is the sense that same way you have community councils, you have a youth wing of those councils, which would it would be like the knowledge base of every community. So
excellent.
That council would be the youth council would be necessary for find out how many young people are out of jobs, how many of them are in school, etc. But how many of them have problems at home, and you know, you have your community center, and it creates an environment. So even though a child might be feeling neglected at home, at least you'll be loved and appreciated at the center. And then that's when we do have a youth parliament, and that's where they come to play in the sense that they would debate and really champion the problems that young people have on the island. Because you have, you know, it's you're not being broad, it's centralized.
But you know, you're a positive young man. You're looking to the future. You're looking at opportunities. Sometimes I speak to young people and I see a lot of anger, frustration, hopelessness, and I can't figure it out, because I know for some of them it's really, really difficult. Being a young person in St. Martin today, it's a lot more difficult than when I was a young person.
Yeah, it's very difficult, and the thing is, when you think about St. Martin, it's like you think that it's a fine and dandy place, which it is, but there are a lot of problems and a lot of issues that young people have. Is that from a very small age, you know, from me talking to a lot of different young people, they've been having a lot of challenges that's been keeping them down. And also, once again, when you try to help yourself, it's like you're barred and you're not seeing any way for you to break through and make something of yourself.
So there's a lot of resistance.
Yes. And so I try my best to be really positive and be out there as a youth representative, but not just to be a face, you know, to say that I'm doing this and so forth, but to help out young people as well, because I do reach out to as many youth as I can.
But you see, the thing is about it, on this island, we tend to say, oh, the young people this, the young people that, the young people not doing this, and not, you know, but when a young person do something, then we go and we criticize. You know, oh, who do you think he is? We trying to. So we have to realize what damage we're doing to.
Yes, and it all goes back to the school. And really and truly, what I find would be necessary is that you need to have more professionals and more people visit the schools to prep those young people for the real life, because you don't learn about life in school unless you have a teacher who's really helpful, really cares about you, who to guide you and help you. If you don't have that, then it's really difficult, because you need guidance.
We have about a few minutes remaining. So again, I want to wrap up and go back to your St. Martin Speak paper, where you're coordinator at the University of St. Martin for that paper. It comes out once a month.
Yes, it is available on Facebook page.
And it will be available to us also. Don't look at the month. It will be available for the general public, or just for universities?
No. We on?
Yeah, we're on.
Oh,
yeah. That was a very short break. That was
sorry. The publication will be available on the Facebook page.
Yeah.
It's type in St. Martin Speaks, which will be st.martin speaks, and the link is right there.
Oh, then you can go to the link.
But also, we will be printing, and we plan to distribute it to like the library and other key areas.
All right. Oral Gibbes live and caller. Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I would like to congratulate my neighbor Steve for the good work he's doing. And I've just advised him not to let anybody put him down. Continue what he's doing. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
That's the neighbor calling.
Yes.
Nobody knows you better than your neighbor, right?
That's right. Well, I mean, they see me grow up, so.
Yeah, right. That's nice. Yeah, so you're doing that. And the radio show going to start, you said, very soon?
Yes, minimum 3 weeks.
Oh, okay.
But I won't be really the voice behind of it, but I have other students who will participate.
And you're going to France in October?
Yes, next month, God's Spare Life.
How's your French?
Très bon, I would say, because I'm of Haitian heritage, and I did well in French. I got a 2 for CXC.
Oh, okay. So at least you'll be able to communicate.
Most definitely.
Right, that's good. And so you're going off to the U.S. in 2016?
Yes, God's Spare Life. Right now we're looking for a really good school to go to. Right now, what I have in mind, Howard University, New York University, and I really want to enter a great institution. Reason being, because when I'm finished, I plan to come straight back to St. Martin and really take charge.
No, that's good. I hope that you are successful. We need people to continue, and I know you're gonna be successful at what you're doing. Right?
Yes, with the help of God, most definitely.
So I want to wish you much success, Mr. Cantave, and don't give up, and don't listen to people when they talk fraud. All right?
Yes.
Because you know where you're going.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what's important. All right? So again, much success to you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And that's it for now. I'll see you next time right here on Oral Gibbes Live. And until then, good night, St. Martin.